morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to go and take a little bit of a look at the very first Allister card that we're ever getting in the Pokémon TCG. Of course, Allister was the gym leader that was exclusive to Shield. And the main reason, the deciding factor for me when I was deciding to go through Pokemon Sword was the fact that Pokemon Sword had B, who, I'm sorry, way cooler than Allister. Come at me in the comment section, but as always, be nice. But still, we've got a new Allister card, and it looks like a rather nice, fun Allister card, and you'll never guess where I got the translation. It's the lovely Antoine Boulet, of course it is. And this is a new supporter card, and what it does is it lets you draw free cards. Well, we've seen that before. Oh yeah, but then you discard up to 3 cards from your hand. Now, Antoine does put a little bit of a note here. You do have to discard. You have no option. If you're not going to discard a card from your hand, you're not allowed to play Allister. If you play Allister, you have to discard a card from your hand by virtue of having done so. But then again, if you don't discard any cards from your hand, it's literally just how, or to put it another way, it's literally just hop. And no one's really rushing out to play those cards right now, so I think it's fair to say that if you really don't want to discard any cards from your hand, don't play Allister. And I actually really like this. I like it more than something like How or Hop. I think this is a really, really interesting card. Of course, it is, or at least should be, very reminiscent of TV Reporter. TV Reporter let you draw 3 cards, and then discard 1 card from your hand. So really, Allister here is a more extreme version of TV Reporter. And TV Reporter came around, it started off in the EX series. We've had it a few times at this stage. The thing is, TV Reporter, you discarded 1 card from your hand. And now this can be TV Reporter. If you want to play this as TV Reporter, whereby you just draw 3 cards and discard a card from your hand, you are more than welcome to do so. That is A-OK by us. But you don't have to. You can discard a 2nd or a 3rd. And honestly here, there are going to be plenty of times where this kind of comes up big. So, let's say, for argument's sake, you've got a Misdreavus on the bench, and you're looking to evolve it into a Mismagius, which lets you KO it and draw till you've got 7 cards in your hand. You really want to draw that Mismagius, or something like an Evolution Incense that will let you then get that Mismagius. So what you do is you play this, and then if you draw it, you can use Mismagius to draw until you've got 7 cards in your hand. The problem is, by drawing extra cards with Allister, you're then going to be drawing fewer cards with Mismagius. If it was something like Crobat, you could just play Crobat and then play Allister afterwards. Although again, you still might not want to. Whereas here, what you can do is play Allister, and then if you draw the Mismagius, you can then discard 3 cards from your hand, and what you're doing is discarding cards you don't want, so that you can then draw the cards you do want with Mismagius. And if you end up drawing everything you need off of Allister, don't KO the Mismagius, you're fine. But if you don't get everything you need, then you go ahead and use the Mismagius. And it's weird situations like this where Allister's really going to earn the money. It's going to be the whole, well, I'm drawing a bunch of cards, but I want to try and empty out my hand first. So it's kind of cool. Now, there is, of course, an argument that instead of playing Allister, you could just play something like Cynthia, and then Cynthia would hopefully draw you the Mismagius. Although that's rotating out, so I don't know, maybe something like Marnie, or Professor's Research. And then if you draw it, you can then go ahead and use the Mismagius. But maybe you end up with too many cards in your hand. Or maybe Marnie makes you shuffle away cards you don't want to shuffle away. Professor's Research makes you discard cards you don't want to discard. In terms of pure draw, the best one we've got at the moment is Lily, but Lily's rotating out when we hit rotation. Again, I'm not arguing this in terms of pure draw, because in terms of pure draw, this is no better than How or Hop. But I'm saying if you want to empty out your hand, this will do it very, very nicely. Maybe you empty out your hand now, in the hope of using Mismagius, Crobat, something like that, next turn. Maybe you're just discarding cards from your hand, so that if your opponent drops a Marnie or a reset stamp, there are fewer cards in your deck, and therefore you're more likely to draw out of it. Or maybe it's one of those decks that wants cards in the discard pile. Zoroark is a very nice Pokemon that I have long thought could be fun, but has just never ended up being fun. But the attack for 1 darkness, 2 colorless energy does 20 damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile up to a maximum 200 damage. So of course, if you're playing Zoroark, what you really want to do is just try and discard as many cards from your hand as quickly as you can, as long as they're Pokemon cards. So with Allister, you draw, and hopefully you draw into those Pokemon so that you can then discard them and then fuel Zoroark. Now, cards like Malamar and Naganadel are unfortunately rotating out, but then again, we get cards like this semi-often. And when they come back, and they will come back, they always come back, I mean, Malamar is just a Psychic-type reprint of Bronzong, and Bronzong was just a Psychic-type reprint of Electric, so I refuse to believe we're not going to have another one of these in the near future, although it will probably be for a different typing. And in those kind of decks where you do want to discard, this has absolutely got your back. Because you draw free, and then you're drawing the ones that you want to discard, and the fact that you're discarding after drawing is awesome, because then you've got that greater choice there. And I do find it very interesting, these ghost Pokemon, they're loving the discard. I mean, one of the most dramatic discarding cards we've had in recent months is the Duskull from Cosmic Eclipse. That's the one that lets you discard 3 cards from your hand, and then search for a card that evolves from Duskull and put it on it to evolve it. And of course, the interesting thing is that Allister is a ghost-type gym leader, good for discarding cards from your hand, and Duskull, of course, then is a ghost that is good for discarding cards from your hand. I cannot be the only one that thinks this is just a little bit thematically appropriate, I think is a phrase I'm going to go ahead and use here. Thematically appropriate. But make no mistake about it, I don't think we're going to be looking at this as a new staple card. The staple draw cards after rotation are going to be Professor's Research, discard your hand and draw 7, and Marnie, both players shuffle their hands, put them on the bottom of their deck, the player that played it draws 5 cards, their opponent draws 4. Those are clearly going to be the 2 staple draw cards. But one important thing to remember is we're going to need other draw cards. And even in that regard, right, if you just want to draw cards, I've said it before, let me say it one more time before we're done here. If you're just looking to draw, it is hard for me to suggest this over something like Hop or How, because they are better draw cards. But if you're playing cards that let you draw until you've got X number of cards in your hand, this can empty out your hand to let you draw more cards. If you're playing cards or decks that really want to play from the discard pile in some regard, this will allow you to do so very, very nicely indeed. That's where this comes in. No, I don't think it is an absolute powerhouse supporter card that is instantly going to become a 4-of in every single deck out there. I don't think it's good enough for that. But that does not mean it's a bad card or a useless card or a terrible card. It does not mean it's not going to see any play at all. It means that it's a useful card and a fun little card and one that some decks are going to like. Honestly, a lot of the decks that are going to be really good with this are things like Malamar and Naganadel, which are rotating out. We seem to have fewer decks at the moment that are playing from the discard pile. But those decks always come back around again. I see no reason why that wouldn't happen again in the near future. I'm giving this 3 Wassies because honestly it is a niche card and it only fits into some decks. But in the decks it fits into, this is going to be really good. And I'm a bit of a fan. But I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourself till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.